Making your way through work Monday takes everything you got. Then Monday night rolls around and you realize there's a shot. You're only 10 points away. All those times when your team had no fight, they're just so gosh darn frail. Then your star quarterback let another deep ball sail, and your third round pick bet on his team. Then go check out our strength where everybody knows your pain, and they listen to complaints. You wanna be where you can see our bodies bring you no shame. You wanna go where everybody knows your pain.
Welcome back to Dad Bod Fantasy Squad. I am here today with the OGs, Mr. Suns Out, Guns Out. Brian, what's up, dude?
Nothing, just getting jacked.
He's using the shadows right now in his basement to conveniently put some, see right there? Yep.
Look at that shadow right there.
Oh!
I think he's definitely flexing as well.
Yes. Also joining us is Cody. What's up, dude? You had a weekend.
Hey man, how we doing?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
You got into some drinking, some buzz. What was going on?
One of my wife's good friends had her 30th birthday party, so we were up at Geneva on the Lake for the weekend. It was a good time, really nice.
The winery spot, right?
Yeah, we didn't go to any wineries, but the winery spot.
Is there other things there? I know there's restaurants, of course, but
it's a strip of bars and restaurants. Yeah.
Okay, I might be thinking of somewhere else then.
I'm not a big fan of Geneva on the Lake. I feel like it feels like a big carnival.
It actually does. That's a true statement. Like even the food stands feel like carnival's a good way of saying it, but also kind of just like a thing. Like I bought a corn dog from a food stand, but it's a permanent food stand, not like a food trailer. Like, yeah.
Dude, it's like a giant putt-putt course. Yeah.
Anytime that's mentioned about carnivals, I just instantly flash back to working for your wife's dad and being at the Marion Popcorn Festival and being like, I'm in the Twilight Zone here. These people are freaking me out.
It's a different world, dude, for sure. And I don't know how Lauren did it for so long because, man, I did it a few times to try and make some, extra money. And I think it's safe to say it was probably the worst job I ever worked.
That's a hard job. Especially, I feel like French fries is a lot as well. Like, it's just such a repetitive thing.
Air
I feel like if you're
not allowed
making
to sit down, you gotta deal with all the money and everything. Dude, you would leave and it would feel like you could take a squeegee and just wipe the grease off your face. It was nasty.
Oh.
And no matter what, you end up eating too many French fries and you come back with the weirdest stomach, dude.
What he means by that is it's just straight diarrhea because those suckers are greased up and they just flow right through.
Before we get into the news today, we had our dad bod topic. This one's a little bit different, though. Yeah. I'm struggling. It is reversing into parking spots. Is that correct, Brian?
It's Cody's topic.
Well, it's backing. I would go with backing in. I was just curious. I mean, it feels like a dad thing, so that's why I was curious, and that I wanted to see
pose the question,
what your guys'
because
take is. Yeah.
Okay.
Is backing into parking spaces, is it approved or is that kind of like a tool move?
Oh, Brian, you said you had a story about this. I'll let you kick it off.
I do have a great story about this. I mean, it's not actually about this. It's just kind of about parking in general. So let me answer Cody's question first. I will do it, but the only time I do back into parking spots is either when it's necessary, like it's a crowded area, because I always like to be able to get out of there quick if I need to. Or if I accidentally pass up a parking spot, I'll back into it. On the other hand, my wife, Lauren, who I love, mother of my child, she has never backed into anything in her life. And she has said this multiple times. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, because it's my last pod in this house. This is my mother's house. My mansion is being built. See, this morning, actually, we go over there right before I went to play basketball, and we both pulled in the garage, and I left. She was still there for a little bit. She leaves. Well, actually, let's just skip ahead. I come home from basketball. I walk in the house. I'm like, what's up? My cousin Robbie's there. He says, dude, did you notice? And I said, notice what? Takes me outside. The right mirror on her car is just like missing. It's just like off. Like all the plastic surrounding it. I'm like, what did you hit? I'm like, did you hit my car? She's like, no. Worse. I'm like,
The new house.
She hit the house, dude. She hit
No.
the garage. Yes. She hit the garage. We haven't even moved in yet, and she hit the
You
garage.
can still claim the builder made the damage,
So this
right?
is the new house. Sorry,
This is the new house. The new house we just put a bunch of money into and everything that I'm trying to complain stain about, and yet my wife's over here taking it out with her car.
See, to add to that, when you said your wife's never backed into anything, like my wife's backed into a lot of shit. It's just never been a parking spot.
Yeah, accurate. Very accurate.
I don't personally think that backing up. Okay, wait, let me rephrase this. Sometimes when I see a car my size, like a Fusion, backing into a parking spot, I'm like, get over yourself, dude. You're taking all this time to just back up so you can conveniently leave later, quicker. Like a truck, understood. A big minivan, understood. But like for a little car, like where you have to back in to make it easier to maneuver out faster later.
Who made you gatekeeper of parking spots?
Ask a question.
You're the guy. You're the guy in my neighborhood. Like if you back into your garage in this neighborhood,
that's different.
You get dirty looks. Like people like sit there and they wait and they watch you and they just seethe, and you can tell. And sometimes they'll even honk.
It's like not quite as different, but
it's like cool your jets.
I definitely back into our garage.
Yeah.
It seems a little bit different. It seems a little bit different in your own in your own driveway, but like I'm thinking of a grocery store setting where we're like, I'm trying to go get my food. I'm hungry, and here we go. You're backing in so you can, I guess, not hit somebody with a cart. Maybe it's safer.
Well, that's always been my theory. Go ahead.
I'm one of the guys that just takes the first spot they see, pretty much.
That's my mom talking about my wife there. I'm gonna be in trouble.
You're caught, dude.
Yeah. So I do back into spots, and what Hal said earlier that the backup cameras kind of changed everything is actually a true statement, because for me it's actually been to not hit something, not like necessarily a person, but I just feel like when you back out of a parking spot, especially if there's a vehicle on both sides, it takes so long for you to get any visibility to see is there anybody coming. And so I had always gotten into a habit, and my car's old enough, it doesn't have a backup camera, but I've always gotten in a habit of backing in, because then I can just, as soon as I pull forward, you can see quickly. Now, backup camera does let you see if anybody's coming. So it does.
I still don't use my camera, though. I have one. I don't use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beeping's nice, though.
The beeping went away with my newer model, so I was really upset about that, because that was the part that I used the most. Let's get into some news. So John Mechie III, diagnosed with leukemia. Get better soon. He is out for a year. Get better soon, man. That's scary stuff. I know there's, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, James Conner was also somebody that was diagnosed with leukemia or some sort of cancer, and he came back strong and had a great career. So we're hoping the best for you, John Mechie. Raheem Mostert received medical clearance. This was one of those, like, that piece of news stunk so bad to see. Raheem Mostert, who I actually feel super sad and how much crap he was getting last season on social media about being out for the year. Really happy for him, man, to be back playing after a kind of gruesome injury with I think it was like a chip off of his knee or his kneecap.
Yeah. And there's a lot of talk that it was a career ender.
And I mean, it's at his age, it's a little bit scarier, but I'm just glad he's hopping back. It's a big win for him. This one I'm going to get your guys' opinion on. James Robinson not on the PUP. So Achilles tear. He's coming back. There's videos of him running. Brian, does this affect that backfield a lot?
we saw what Cam Akers did when he came back. It wasn't especially pretty. I think Achilles is definitely an injury that's going to take longer to come back from. Like, even if you're able to play, you're probably not going to be playing that well.
Right. Cody?
Yeah, and it's not even like, and I know Cam Akers came back quick too. These guys are coming back quick from these Achilles now, but I feel like it's been, 9 months, definitely not anything near a full year. It feels quick. It has me, in general, I was already concerned about productivity, but even if he's not productive, I guess from a fantasy perspective, it probably puts a smidge of fear in you for ETN, just in the fact of someone else is available, not a question of how good is he going to be. So I guess I'm not talking so much in terms of James Robinson's value, but does it impact ETN just the fact that he is available to some degree?
I think
that's a fair question.
I'm kind of with Brian. I think it will help a little bit more than like we actually imagine. I think when you're looking at ETN's skill set, largely I've been kind of counting on him to be splitting some time with somebody anyways, whether that was Snoop, whether it was James Robinson or another person.
He was never 250 carries. That's fair.
Exactly. Yep. So I think if anything, it's like a neutral, maybe helps, like Brian just said, where it kind of opens up different sort of plays for him.
Sorry, let me add another piece of news, and this will be a pretty good segue into our first team as well. But we were just talking about Justin Ross on the Chiefs, who underwent foot surgery today. And that's another guy that, coming out of college, he was highly touted. Weren't really sure if he was ever really going to play again. Got signed, I believe, as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, he had a bad diagnosis of. I could look it up while you're saying this. Sorry,
I think it was his back or
neck or back. I think it was yeah.
But yeah, he just got put on the IR. He had foot surgery, which is you hate to hear it, especially with the other issues already. So wishing him a speedy recovery as well. Hopefully he can get back on the field because the Chiefs definitely need a receiver.
It's sad stuff. You feel like guys just can't catch a break sometimes, man.
Yeah.
Well, his is a bit tougher. I mean, I'm gonna botch this name, so I apologize. Klippel-Feil syndrome, which is condition in the spine where the vertebrae are fused together. So there was a lot of talk about doctors. Some doctors said he has that same risk of injury as other players. Other doctors said he's one hit from being paralyzed. So it was always a little bit scary. That's why he went undrafted.
Could kind of say that about any NFL player, one hit from.
I think that was kind of the argument with some people. So it was a little weird. But like you said, segue into Kansas City. We have a lot to talk about in the whole division, the AFC West.
Loaded, man. Absolutely loaded.
Offensive pieces like crazy. Some defenses suck. Some are okay. So, I mean, let's start off with Kansas City, the one that's done it, with Mr. Patty Mahomes. All right. So, Brian, before you kick off and tell us a little bit about his dominant record against the AFC West, do you guys have faith in him? So, I mean, actually, you know what, Brian, kick us off and kind of go through your spiel with this image here.
So what you say about having faith in him, I think we've seen some regression from Mahomes the last 2 years for sure. But I mean, his regression is still top 10, top 5 quarterback. He's still a fantastic player. Him and Andy Reid really mesh well. As you can see, 9-0 against the Broncos, 5-2 against the Chargers, 7-1 against the Raiders. Kind of tough to take those necessarily at face value because, the Broncos just got Russell Wilson. The Chargers haven't had Justin Herbert until 2 years ago. And the Raiders just got Devontae Adams. So these teams are a little bit different. And the Chargers, like Mario said, and the Broncos, they both just added a lot of defensive pieces. Not necessarily with the Raiders and the Chiefs so much. But I still believe, like, if I'm looking for I think I'm taking him more for his safe floor rather than his high ceiling this year. Whereas in the past, I feel like his ceiling was a lot higher. I feel like his ceiling has been lowered quite a bit with Tyreek Hill.
And Cody, I know your answer, so you don't have to say like whether you're going to be drafting him at all. Everyone who's watched the show knows that you're going to be like, too rich for me. But how are you feeling about him as a quarterback overall in fantasy, though? Where do you kind of see him falling here?
Yeah, I have him at QB4. So in terms of rankings, I think I'm fairly normal to some degree. I think he goes 2 overall, but with a lot of I guess people in the industry, you would say they tend to have him a smidge lower. I've seen that a fair amount. And you try to look at with the departure of Tyreek Hill, what is the part that suffers most? And I think I believe in Andy Reid, and I think I believe in this offense to find the touchdowns. I think it's weirdly the yards that scare me a little bit. Because Travis Kelce's great. Travis Kelce's phenomenal. He could put up 1,300 yards. But anytime you lose a player that's a 1,500 yard weapon and really don't replace it with, I mean, we don't even know who the number 1 is here. I just don't think he's a 5,000 yard quarterback anymore. I just can't see a pathway to that. And so even if you find your way into, 32 touchdowns, but your yards are 4,500, 4,600, you're probably QB4 or QB5 instead of that, top QB threat. And so that's why I've kind of got him there. I just struggle to find that push on this roster to keep him in that top couple guy category.
Well, you said a lot of interesting things there, and putting him 4 at 5, I guess can be the effects of a group of wide receivers, right? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean there has to be 1 or 2. We know Travis Kelce is a dominant tight end, but what if you had to take a choice? Because largely their ADPs are very similar, and I just kind of what wide receiver is going to emerge from here? And I'll start with you, Cody, and then I'll go to you, Brian.
I'm gonna say something and then tell you that, to be honest with you, I haven't done it. Okay. So, we always chase wide receiver 1s on a team. And we talked on a recent episode of how maybe we should, I know Mario and I aren't that into it, but like Christian Kirk's a number 1 receiver on a team. There has to be a discussion made of that, at least as a later round pick. And so when we look at the Kansas City Chiefs and as electric as this offense is, we should probably be taking these receivers, but nobody wants them, and including me. If I'm going to bet on one, I suppose I think it's Juju for me right now. But to say I think Juju has Juju of old numbers in him, I just don't think so. Let's say
off a torn ACL.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's say I would say traditionally this receiving core has probably been close to a 3,000 yard receiving core. Let's even say it's a 2,500 yard receiving core this year. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him at, 900, 700, 600, 550. That wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, but there's a lot of TDs that you talked about there, especially if he's going to fall into QB4 or 5 numbers. I mean, you could say that, but that would be like what Cody is. I mean, that would top out somewhere, right? 13 would be, I would say, ceiling, right? The top. And then
are we talking for Kelce?
Yeah. There's still a lot of TDs, so it would almost force a wide receiver to become relevant, at least one of them, even if the ball is spread around a lot. So you pick Juju. Brian, who do you got here?
I'm also going to pick Juju just because he's the only one that's actually done it before. Like, I want to say Scantling and Mecole Hardman. They both have never gone over like 700 yards in a season in their career. There's really, I mean, they've pretty much been deep threats their entire career. Juju's the only one who's actually done it before. He had his rookie season, he had 900 yards. His second season, I think he had 1,400, 7 touchdowns both seasons. He even came close like 2 years ago again. I think he had a 900-yard season, something like that. He did pretty well. So I do think if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be him. And like Cody said about not liking the other guys, if I have to pick a second receiver, I'm going with Josh Gordon.
That's interesting.
I actually, the Josh Gordon one is a freaking wild take. I am probably going with the rookie here, Sky Moore. And I mean, the dude had a dominant last year. He put up 95 for 1292 and 10 TDs in Western Michigan. So, I mean, say what you want.
In Western Michigan. Who did he play against?
MAC conference. Yeah.
Did you just say the MAC?
I understand. They spent high draft capital on this guy. Is Brian freezing or am I?
I think it's you.
I think it's me too, because that sounded delayed a little bit.
You can keep talking about your draft.
But I think I'm caught back up. They spent high draft capital on this guy. I mean, he's got one of the best quarterbacks in the league throwing him the ball. And then just what you said, Brian, I'm not biting on Mecole Hardman or MVS. Definitely not MVS.
Here's the only thing to consider in terms of Mecole, and obviously I'm not really necessarily pitching Mecole, but if you look from a skill set perspective at the Tyreek Hill replacement, he makes the most sense. If they say that's what we still want to do as a team, he makes the most sense.
I just find him hard to. He hasn't shown us anything other than speed.
Let's be honest. It's all going to Kelsey.
I mean,
Travis Kelsey's getting all the work. He's going to have 1,700 yards this year, 13 touchdowns.
So that's my next question, Brian. It is, and it's already answered from you. Any concerns with Travis Kelsey receiving?
So look,
am I lagging?
Kelsey's a tight end. He's not a receiver. The outside guys, Travis Kelsey might open up some work for those outside guys, especially the deep balls. But recently on an episode of Establish the Run, they mentioned on their podcast a couple days ago that double coverage happens to the best receivers only at max 18% of plays. So like, who are they going to double cover him with? They're gonna put a linebacker and a nickel back on him? Like, that's not going to happen. He's going to either bully the nickel back, or if they put the linebacker on him, he's just going to outrun him. There's no chance that they're going to, like, teams are going to come into the game. They're going to say, let Kelsey do whatever. If that's how we get beat, that's how we get beat. At least that's what I think. I think they're going to let him just nickel and dime all day, because that's what's proven the last 2 years to kind of throw Mahomes off, is to kind of force him to take the short stuff. And so I think Kelsey's going to have like a career year this year. I'm a big fan. Big fan, taking him first round everywhere.
Mario, what's your feelings?
I am so just shocked by that statement.
Why?
And I can't tell if I'm like super laggy right now, so apologize if I talk over you guys. It's just crazy to me that you think that the defense is going to be like, okay, we'll let Kelsey beat us.
What, they're going to double team him all game? Are you kidding me? And let the burners,
it's possible. You know what?
Single coverage?
You know how many times Gronk faced double coverage? Jimmy Graham? Those guys face double coverage.
Okay, that just means there's a guy underneath and a guy over top, but you can still beat it.
I just would find it hard. And if it's not double coverage, I just find it hard for them not to scheme different defensive sets against him specifically. When you're losing Tyreek, you're losing this deep offensive weapon that these defenses now are going to be like, yeah, we don't have to really. There's Mecole out there, MVS, let them beat us.
Yeah,
but with Tyreek, you couldn't
rather go with single man coverage on those guys who are known burners, who want single man coverage. Like, you're not winning that.
Kind of genius now that this is all coming. It makes me wonder, just like, I mean, they have sucked at picking players recently, and I just picked Sky Moore since John Dorsey has been gone, and now they have two burners that aren't that great, but might draw defensive attention. I would still be shocked for him to be the focal. Well, he's definitely going to be the focal point of the offense, but I just would be surprised if the defense was to just kind of snooze on this.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew this, Mario, but Patrick Mahomes almost has as good of a deep ball as Tua.
I want to say you just roasted on him then.
No, that's what Tyreek Hill
said. Cody, did you have any last thoughts there? Because I had one more question about Kansas City.
Not terribly. I mean, the only thing I'll say is he's my tight end one so I'm not worried in any way about Kelsey being the focal point. You know, Kelsey existed before Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelsey was elite in this league before them. And so I don't think that changes just because Tyreek Hill is no longer on this team. And so, you know, when you look at Kelsey, he's up to like 6 or 7 years straight of 1,000 yards. I mean, he has put together an amazing streak. So to say that I think his production takes a dip because Tyreek's gone, I don't think is true. To say that I think he has 1,700 yard upside, I also don't think that's true. So, you know, I guess I'm probably somewhere in between you two. I think it's the Travis Kelsey we've always seen. I don't think the ceiling goes way higher, but I was
shouting out ridiculous stats, I should have said, I think he has like 180 catches. I think he's gonna make up for it in the PPR game.
80.
Dude, I
That
don't know
can't be
how
a real
many.
number.
I would think he's gonna have a ton of. I think
You
he's
could
gonna
say
have a ton.
targets, which would be
Sorry, that
14
is what I
shy of
meant.
Cooper Kupp last season. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be targeted on like
it's
every
still
play.
crazy.
Even if it's just even if it's 5-yard dump offs and stuff.
Here's the thing. I mean,
So-
he's been getting 140 plus targets the last couple years, I think. And so, even if it's 160, I mean, it's a jump, but it's not a like historic tight end season jump to me.
Yeah. What do we think about the backfield? So, early reports, some saying Rojo's going to get cut. Some say Jerick McKinnon. Others are like, guys, you're ridiculous. Derek Gore and another running back that's in this backfield will be gone. I'm going to ask a quick hitter. I don't believe either of you are targeting anybody else, but when would you go for CEH if at all, Brian?
What's his current ADP? Do you know?
80. That's a guess.
Because I want to throw out a ridiculous round that I feel like is going to be way off.
Do it. Let's see if it's way off.
All right, so I'm going to say 9th round is where I would target him.
No, I think that's like okay.
He's probably smarter than that, I would guess. But
he's 62 right now overall. So if you could do that math fast, so is that
6
5? So
roundish?
6.2.
6.
Yeah, like I don't want him, but if he falls far enough, I'll take him.
I'll quick hit this. I'm not going to say a draft spot. He's got to be my RB3, but I think there's upside there actually. But I'm not taking him as my RB2.
It's so funny that you say he's your, and I'll hit it quick too, the RB3 thing, because I think I go Clyde if I completely fade RBs for a while. I would go Clyde and Damian or something.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good.
If you did a
dart throw kind of thing.
Yeah, no RB. That'd be a pretty.
I
good
guess
dart
if you're
throw for
giving
sure.
any kind of focus to RB, I don't think he can be your RB2. Like you got to be loaded elsewhere if he's a RB1 or 2 for you.
It does seem like a wasted RB2 pick is what you're saying. So I agree with that. You're kind of just like, makes sense.
But I'll be quick. He hasn't been that bad. He just gets hurt and he hasn't always had the work. Like he's 4.3 and 4.4 yards per carry. The production on receiving work's been good. Like he hasn't been that bad of a football player.
Thing is,
Cody, it just hasn't happened.
He should be better on
He
that
should.
team.
He should.
That's the thing.
And it's harder than ever because this offense isn't going to be quite as electric. So it's harder than ever.
Yeah. They do have I believe I saw they have the 3rd ranked O-line. So he does have the opportunity for sure this year, especially if they're going to be running it a bit more. But we won't know that until we start seeing it.
Yep.
Let's slide over to the Raiders. Brian had a big story that he wanted to bring up, and I think it's an amazing one.
Wow, you just have the title there. Yeah. So Bo Jackson, he paid for the funerals of 19 children and 2 teachers that died in the shooting at, I don't know how to say it. Is it Uvalde?
Looks like Uvalde to me.
That terrible tragedy. But Bo Jackson helped out. I want to say also Matthew McConaughey is from that city, and I want to say he also paid a lot as well. So I mean, you just hate even bringing that up, but it's a nice gesture for sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I think we've recorded probably right around that time. That happened June 22nd, June 23rd, I think, and I don't know if we mentioned, but obviously hearts go out to that. It was terrible. It still is terrible. Everything that's happening with incidents like that is scary and sad. Cody, did you see this quote?
I did see this quote.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah. So anytime you change, and this is Devontae Adams on his quarterback play, anytime you change QBs from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment.
Just like Tyreek Hill, man.
This isn't the first comment he's made. I mean, Devontae's shown a ton of love for Derek Carr this offseason. A ton.
They played at wasn't it like LSU together, right? I think I'm off on college. But I think they played together in college.
Fresno. Yes, they did. Do you think Devontae and Tyreek are just texting each other like, let's hype them up. Let's do it. Like,
no offense, Brian, but I think
going.
Carr's an easier sell than Tua at this moment.
I mean, he had a better year. That's for sure.
There was a lot of Tua love going on today on Twitter. So, Cody, with the Raiders, and after that comment, you posed a question to us: is Devontae a little risky? So I'm going to kick it with Brian, and then I'll answer, and then you kind of tell us where you're coming from on that.
I think so. I think he's a little risky for where he's being drafted right now. And the only reason I say that is because in Green Bay, he was peppered with targets. Like Aaron Rodgers literally force-fed him the ball. It seemed like they literally had conversations like in the huddle, like I'm going to see how many touchdowns I can get you this game and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think Derek Carr was going to spread it around a little bit more. You got Hunter Renfrow there, who's a pretty good player.
Yes, he is.
Darren Waller as well. So we've seen the other receivers be successful. So I just don't think Davante Adams is going to put up numbers like he has the past couple of years.
I mean, I'm definitely with you. I think there is going to be some sort of regression there, but I also, it just sucks because you feel like you're either taking him wide receiver 4 or wide receiver 5 if you're lucky. But either way, that feels like you're drafting him right at his ceiling, but also that I still feel like he has such a high floor to the point where
it feels like he's just going to finish there. Like there's not really a range of outcomes.
Upside.
It just feels right.
Yeah. Like
there's not really downside either. Like
outside of injury, would you guys not even like, because we've seen Derek Carr support solid wide receiver options, and we know outside of injury that Devontae will be the number 1 to receive these peppered with targets. So like just from a PPR standpoint, his floor has to be, I mean, 5 to 12 is probably where I would put him.
What did Hunter Renfrow finish last year? Like 22? I'm just curious.
10.
Higher than that, I think.
Wide receiver 10.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was on receptions. He had, if not 100, right at 100.
I think it was 103, if I remember right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to start memorizing these stats to just be ready with them.
You're going to look like Rain Man.
Kmart.
Yeah.
Yes, Kmart. I just watched that movie for the first time, dude, and I love
Oh, really?
it. Yeah. All right, wide receiver 10 was Hunter Renfrow. But where are you coming from with that? So you obviously are feeling some risk there.
I'll say risk. Now, I'll say this with a small caveat. I think I have him ranked close to a ceiling, and that's what makes me feel risky. So when I statted him out, I tried to look at the team, what Hunter Renfrow did, what Darren Waller did, the downgrade, however big you want to make it from Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. And I just can't find more than 150 targets for Devontae. And at 150, he stats out as my wide receiver 4.
Yeah, we tried to make the argument against this.
We did.
We talked about it.
Yeah. I've been a little bit up and down on him because I was kind of out for all these reasons. And then I was like, but it's Davante Adams. Like, I think he's the best. I think he's the best pure receiver in the game personally. And so, it gets hard. And I think I have him ranked at a ceiling. And that's what
nobody has him below 4.
And he's being drafted there. And to me, like, I just can't find more than 150 targets. And so that feels like the top. And he's being drafted there.
But like we went the meme or the GIF where it shows like all the numbers to like a chalkboard. Like there was a point very early in the season, probably early June, I would guess, that we were digging so tough to make an argument against this.
As he should be low. Trying to knock him down.
We were like, where's the target share percentage? What would it look like if it was 20%?
Yep.
It was everything. We looked into literally everything, and we couldn't figure out, like at most you could make a case for him at wide receiver 6, but even then neither of us stuck to that.
You got to give him 9 touchdowns, and I just think he's a double-digit touchdown guy. And so it's hard to stat out single-digit touchdowns for him.
So carrying over that note, obviously if Devontae is going to dog, that means there's somebody else, and obviously you both feel this way. Brian has Derek Carr at number 8. Cody, you have him at 10. So obviously you guys got some Derek Carr love. We've talked about it on previous shows. If his TD rate goes higher and he just stays the same everywhere else, I mean, he's probably going to lock into that top 10. What does this mean for the pass catchers, though? Because like we just said, Hunter Renfrow was a wide receiver 10. Darren Waller, I want to say, was tight end 6 points per game. Maybe not so much because he got hurt, but points per game, he should have been right around tight end 6. What
So
what are we expecting from those two?
So there was a stat on Reddit I saw the other day on their great fantasy football subreddit, and it actually
Tight
took
end
a
7
look at all the players from like the last 10 years and how many times receivers finished, like two receivers on the same team finished in the top 10 in that year. And historically, it's about one team has two receivers that finish in the top 10. I don't think it's going to be the Raiders. I think Devontae, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, they're all really good players. I just don't think that I think they're going to eat into each other a little too much. And Derek Carr he's not going to force feed Devontae the ball because he does spread it around more than Aaron Rodgers did. And I don't know if that was because of the receivers in Green Bay or if because Aaron Rodgers just loved throwing it to Devontae, but that's what I think about the other receivers. I do like Derek Carr this year, but he is not a sexy pick, that's for sure.
So let me just give one more caveat to that. Hunter Renfrow is going wide receiver 32. It seems like a bargain.
It does. That's about where I have him ranked, and I have Waller at 6 or 7. So I have Waller about where he was last year. Here's where I struggle. I hate to downgrade them too much because I guess that's downgrading. I shouldn't say it that way. That's downgrading Renfrow a ton. It's leaving Waller ballpark where he's at. Here's one of the hard parts, and this is what has me downgrading Renfrow instead of Devontae. But I could be wrong on this. Derek Carr threw for 4,800 yards last year. If we say this passing attack is going to upgrade significantly from a fantasy perspective, it's via touchdowns, not yards. And I think those touchdowns find their way predominantly to Darren Waller and Devontae Adams going forward. That would be my expectation. And that's kind of my reason for saying, hey, if there was 1,000 yards, like if Derek Carr threw for 3,800 yards and 30 touchdowns, I'd feel differently, actually. It feels like Renfro's meat and potatoes is what's going to have to be up for grabs more than, say, Devontae's touchdowns to me.
You know, the good thing about Hunter Renfrow, though, is that he is kind of like, and I hate to make this comparison because he's a smaller white receiver, but he's kind of like that Wes Welker, Julian Edelman safety blanket type. Like you pointed out, he did it on catches last year mostly. So I do think there is still like a niche for him to fill. But yeah, I just don't think he's going to be a top 10.
You're speaking my language. Like, this is it.
Oh.
I mean,
you're feeling that niche is still strong.
It's Josh McDaniels' offense. That's his niche. The two players played on his team. I think Cody's still a little bit crazy. And maybe I know we can't spend up too much time on this, and I already have. But let's look at this. Bryan Edwards, Zay Jones, Henry Ruggs. All Deshaun Jackson even. They're leaving about 1,700 yards off the table. We got close to 7 TDs. Like, that's – I know that there's going to be those other guys, but we still have to equate like.
And there's not 7 TDs available. There's 15 available in my opinion, because I just think the touchdowns are going through the roof. I'm saying this is a positive to you. There's a lot more touchdowns available even than 7 in my mind.
Do you think this is 23 was low?
Do you think this is the one or two team or the one or second team that has 2 top 10 receivers though?
No.
It's really the question: is he a number 2 or number 3 receiver? That's really
I think that's fair. I still think Renfrow could be a top 20 guy, top 24. I'd probably feel better.
It's definitely possible. Here's what I'll say with Renfrow. I do acknowledge I probably have him a little low. I probably have him near his floor. He doesn't get me overly excited, and that's probably why I have him near his floor. Yeah,
it's a lot of these PPR kind of guys. I don't think anybody really gets too excited about it, but I had a big fun time drafting him in Dynasty. I was like, all right,
yeah,
I'm down for this.
So I'm going to segue us. It's funny that you mentioned Hunter Renfrow being undervalued this year, because another running back, well, not another, but a running back that's also being undervalued this year, I've been pretty surprised, is Josh Jacobs. He's currently going at RB22.
Super low for what I would expect the RB1 on this team. I mean, we all know that. It's not expect.
He's going after Elijah Mitchell, Breece Hall, Antonio Gibson, Cam Akers.
Like, listen to that. Like, Elijah Mitchell and Antonio Gibson are both guys that we're like expecting in some sort of heavy running back by committee. Are we expecting this tune to change and in Las Vegas because Josh McDaniels is there. So Brian's shaking his head. Yes, Cody.
I want to hear Brian's thought.
Okay.
No, not really. I'll give my thought. Let me hit real quick because I'll be quick, Brian. I changed my mind. Here's my one really strong stance for Jacobs. They didn't give him a contract. And you know what you do with a pretty nice player when you decide not to give him a contract? You run him into the ground.
You run him to the ground. Which is also like he's going to want to shine out, right? He wants that second
100%.
contract.
It's all lining up to me to be a nice fantasy season.
Man.
So I'm on the other side. I disagree with Cody. And the reason for that is because Josh Jacobs has basically been asking for like 2 years to basically be put into a committee, or at least anytime he's asked about it, he responds with, I'd love to have other guys in here. Like, I feel like it's one of the only modern day. Well, that's not true because all the running backs.
Javonte likes it.
Who?
Javonte likes it. He was
I thought you
excited
said
for
Monte.
Monte.
It's a smart thing. He's unfortunately now in a spot where he's fighting for his next contract. So I don't think you're going to hear that quite as much.
But I don't know. They've never, so it is new coach, like Mario said, but they've never really, I feel like, utilized Josh Jacobs to his full, I don't want to say potential, but like what he could be doing necessarily. Like he's not a 25 carry a game type of guy. Or at least they've never given him that. I feel like they more always lean towards like under 20 for Jacobs. And I could be way off because this is not a guy that I have owned in a lot of leagues.
He's largely been inconsistent, and I don't know exactly the numbers in front of me, but like that's what I've always remembered while watching him.
Yeah, he's not a 300 carry guy, but he's definitely not one of your traditional pass catching backs either. I mean, I would say he's been a 225 to 250 carry guy.
It also seems like he is always fighting through an injury.
That is true. I owned him. I owned him in a year, and it's like if it wasn't his ankle, it was his elbow. If it wasn't his elbow, it was I mean, every week there was something. That's true.
So this is just Fantasy Pros, ECR. But actually, so like Jacobs is low, I feel like, but there's also a couple guys below him that I would also rather have over him. So like I'd rather have Dobbins. I'll take the risk on Dobbins. And I'd also take AJ Dillon over him. And you guys both, I know, love ETN, and he's right below him as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't
17. I'm not like through the roof high on him. I just think he's going to be a just fine RB2 this year. And you can
I agree.
I think I'm a little too low on Josh Jacobs. I don't actually have my number in front of here, but I guess the biggest concern is he had 64 targets last season, 54 receptions, that's fat for a wide receiver, but that's for sure going to run down. That's also where, for running back. That's also where we're going to see some of those numbers coming out. Only 6.4 yards per reception though, so not very efficient.
Mario, you're high on him actually. You don't realize it.
Then I already built in this love.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, good.
Yeah, it's already.
I just say I like running backs that have a ton of offensive weapons. I don't know it's not great for their pass work, but
I love all running backs and good offenses. I preach that, so I'm with you.
Yeah, I think I like that, but I also like the real crummy ones that are pass catchers. #ETN. Moving over to the Broncos. Almost skipped over.
Moving out west. Well, actually, I can't really say out west because Vegas is more west.
We're moving east of Vegas.
So the Denver Broncos were named the 2022. What was it? The Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year. Didn't really necessarily look into too much of what this means, but I thought it was pretty great for them. So good job, Broncos.
Woo!
Yay.
Way to be humanitarians.
Okay. I thought you had more to
that's all I got.
All right. So let's talk about the Broncos. We'll kind of get into this. I mean, I think we're going to skip over Russell Wilson as far as fantasy impact. We're all pretty high on him. I think it goes from 6 to 11, QB 6 to 11 between our 30 ranks. We've also talked about these wide receivers a ton. So I was wondering, do you guys want to give a quick thought on trying to sort out this wide receiver room? I guess when you're drafting and you're seeing them, what's your approach? Go, Brian.
So I'm not going to touch any of them. And anybody who tells you that they know which receiver it's going to be this year is a liar. And that's all I've got.
Cody.
I'll take a slightly different approach with the caveat that I've struggled with this team all year because there's going to probably be a stud. And if there's not a stud, then there's 2 wide receiver twos on this team. And for some reason, I just get like with Brian and I don't really want any of it, but I can fully acknowledge it's going to be there. I'm betting on
backfield.
I'm taking the Judy bet based on age that I think, Cortland, not that Cortland's old, but I think we've seen it from Cortland to some degree. I think he's 26, so he's not old, but I'm just taking Judy in terms of high draft capital, young guy. There's all the reports of, hey, he's not an alpha receiver, those things. And I mean, if that wasn't true, he'd be drafted much higher. Russell Wilson's shown he can support, big time fantasy receivers. So I'm going Judy, but not high enough to where I'm getting him a lot. I'm going to get burnt by this team, but I just can't fall in love. I just can't fall in love.
Yeah, I have a feeling that one of these receivers is going to be on a lot of league-winning teams this year. But again, you just won't know which one it is.
So I have a different approach with these guys, and I'm getting my hands on pretty much whatever ones I could get. And that goes all the way down to Tim Patrick. So Cortland Sutton's going wide receiver 25, Jerry Jeudy wide receiver 27. So almost the exact same spot. I do think Sutton profiles, and it's weird because he's big, kind of like DK, but I actually think he plays more like Lockett does. He's a deep threat.
Deep ball. Yeah.
Yes. He was incredible with Joe Flacco. Second half of 2019 kind of dipped. I talked about this in another episode, kind of dipped down with Drew Lock, and then following year ACL. After that goes to Teddy Bridgewater. Like, we just haven't got the chance to see Cortland Sutton, and I mean it more than anybody. But also, like you just said, Cody, if I don't get Cortland, guess I'm going Judy, because I think he has a ton of talent, and I think he could. I've never been a big. I think this is a bet on Russell for me. I think Jerry Jeudy has largely shown us nothing since college, but I do remember last season watching him and watching how bad Cortland looked once Jeudy was in. Not necessarily bad on Cortland, but how much the quarterback went to Jeudy after that. And Jeudy does still run nice routes.
I kind of think it depends on what you're looking for, too. If you're looking for a safe pick, like in that range, you have like Deontay, Waddle, Cooks, Cooper, a lot more safer options.
That's way higher.
If you're picking for, upside, Gabe Davis is right around there as well. That's another guy that's kind of a big question mark, which, whatever. But yeah,
Gabe Davis being drafted that high?
Yeah, Gabe Davis is grossly high right now.
Whoa.
What?
Fantasy pros, I'm not on PPR. I'm on standard like a clown. So that's probably
I was wondering where. Yeah, Deontay was the one that threw me off. I was like, these guys are way higher.
Yeah, that's why for sure. I just pulled it up to look at it. But yeah, I think if you want like safe, like obviously if you're looking for just a wide receiver too, your Brandon Cooks is the unsexy pick. Waddle's probably going to have a decent year.
Waddle's way higher.
Whatever, dude.
I'm just saying, he goes 41. He goes wide receiver 15. So around that time, there's Darnell Mooney, Amari Cooper, Cortland Sutton, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Adam Thielen, Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Gabriel Davis, and then Hunter Renfrow. All there from 58 to 78.
Here's the thing that makes no sense to me. That group feels right to me with how I'm viewing these guys, but one of these 2 guys is going to blow that group out of the water. I just can't wrap my head around
right?
This. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know
where Cooper. This is close to. That's close to where he went last year.
I already know in Paulie's league, Mario's going to try and take Cortland Sutton in like the second round or something stupid.
Oh crap, Brian! Second round, yeah, with Waddle. That's why you were comparing him with Waddle. Is you're worried I'm going to take him second round?
No, he was right there. He said Waddle's way higher.
He's wide receiver 15.
Okay, I see it now. I sorted in that time that you were rambling.
Great.
I think Mooney's going to have a nice year. I'd rather have him.
Mooney should get the most targets.
Whatever, move on. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the other piece of conversation with this team is the Javonte Melvin backfield.
Same as last year.
Are we going to see a bit of a change, or is it going to be different? Or
a 10 to 20% change.
Last year, or is it different?
I agree with 20%
change.
Because it was literally like split down the middle 50-50 last year. And I think Melvin actually like outperformed Javonte. But if you watched the games, you know that it wasn't the same performance because Javante's running over 8 guys on his way for a 5-yard carry, and Melvin's just like wide open field and he trips on himself for 5 yards. No, Melvin's not a slouch, but he is getting older. I agree with Cody. I think it's going to be a 10-20% difference. Like it's going to be like 65-35 maybe at max.
At max. I'm probably more like 60-40 with that as 65-35 is the max.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if it's 65-35, we're getting into a territory that if we expect Javonte to be good, he should do it with 65.
I said max.
I'll put carries on it. You know, I think the team will run slightly less with Russ. Just slightly less.
But they'll have more drives.
I'll go 210 and 180 on the carries.
So Javante's only going 6. I think it's about 6 carries higher than last season.
It might be more of a hit on Melvin than it's a boost on Javonte. You might be right.
Yeah, because that's not much for Javonte.
Well, and if one of these two guys goes down, you know, you have a bona fide. Yeah, for sure. Like Javonte,
even
probably
if it's
like
Melvin.
a top 5 guy. Melvin probably like a top 10.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm closer to like I don't know what I have them statted out, but I think it's closer to 220, 240.
And you know,
somewhere
while we're
around
speaking
there.
about these guys, Melvin is a fantastic
He's
steal
got
in
some
drafts.
value.
Like
He
he's
does
going
have some value.
220 Mario, that's not an egregious number.
I don't think so.
Melvin Gordon's wide receiver or running back 35. He's going after Rashad Penny and Cordarrelle Patterson.
People love their Rashad.
I
think he should go behind Rashad, but not if I was to.
Well, Ken Walker's right after him.
Yeah,
Mario, you're gonna love this. So
What?
you've got Javonte for 220 and Melvin for 170. I said 210 and 180. So we're 10 carries apart on both ends. Exactly.
Dude, that's great.
Yeah.
That's funny. I can't even believe I put Melvin back up that high and I've been fading him every time. Like I should be drafting him where he's going.
He's 36.
It's just the problem. I think the problem is like you know where your ceiling is with Melvin. If Javonte stays healthy, you know where that ceiling is. So that value, yes, is good. Like he'll probably outperform it, but he won't probably outperform it by more than 5-6 spots.
So, and even if he does, you probably might not end up with an RB2. And then so what are you doing it for?
Yeah, because then you're just letting those points on your bench. And then you wasted this upside pick of maybe somebody like Rashad Penny, who if they do stay healthy for 17 games, could do some damage.
League winner. If that
would be. So it's like choosing between a dart throw league winner or a safety
high RB3
bye week. Yeah.
Melvin was a solid RB2 for me last year. He carried me to the not the finals, quarterfinals.
Yeah, but if we all agree there's a little bit of a downgrade for him, we got to call him probably a borderline RB3 at this point for sure.
Yeah, I'd probably flex. Yeah.
All right, let's move over to the Chargers.
Just let Brian talk.
I got to wear my shirt.
This is pretty funny to me.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Madden released their rankings or their ratings the other day, and Herbert was rated 88, right? I can't really see it small on my screen.
88, yes.
Make it larger.
Yeah.
I looked at it earlier. Yeah.
And people were up in arms about his rating because he's lower than Dak Prescott and Joe Burrow. He responded.
The Joe Burrow one's fair.
Right?
Yeah, and
the
he
Dak
said,
is the issue.
He said, I think they're being pretty generous.
I know. That's funny that he responded.
He's so humble and dreamy.
You just love him, dude.
Who doesn't?
I'm going to do a quick detour because I saw, and this could be an old interview, and I apologize. I know I slow this down always. And it could be an old interview. I just saw it the other day, and it just made me laugh so hard, where a reporter asked Justin Herbert if he lifts, and he goes, yeah. And then there's a pause, and he goes, does it not look like it?
Yeah, that is. I think that was from last season.
Me.
Yeah.
But I think he did actually start putting on some muscles this year. I'm pretty sure that like there was pictures of him, and he was looking pretty jacked. As long as he doesn't cut the hair.
That is 100% it.
I wonder how much negative like feedback he got on social medias or wherever about him cutting his hair last season.
If he had a girlfriend, she broke up with him, guaranteed.
There was beat writer reports out about Josh Palmer pretty much looking like the for sure wide receiver 3.
Of course he is. He's a
Brian
stud.
rejoices.
Look, this is like, I don't want to speak out of hand, but I'm probably going to speak out of hand here.
Oh God.
What I'm saying is, no, he's just a great like last round, 15, 14. I'm not sure where he's going.
I got
Great
you.
dart throw, because if either Keenan or Mike Williams goes down, he instantly becomes, I think, a wide receiver too.
I don't think what you're saying there is actually that wrong. Like
I agree.
wide receiver, like probably on the high end of wide receiver.
He's
too,
a
right?
big body.
Until we
He's
see
like
more.
6'3", 6'4". He had some flashes last year. He looked really good. I'm a big Josh Palmer fan. I have him in a lot of leagues, dynasty leagues.
And this is one of those few teams, like you kind of mentioned with the Raiders, not necessarily the Raiders wasn't really one you said, but they're one of the few teams that probably is in contention for having 2 number 1 receivers. Like you said, one team here does it. Keenan and Mike Williams is probably one of the higher probability chances of that being the case. So if one does get injured, it is an ideal opportunity. That's definitely true.
So Josh Palmer is wide receiver 73. He goes about 214. So that's
Yeah, that
I'm gonna
sounds
ballpark
undrafted
here.
to me.
I think it's
That's
drafted.
waivers. Is it?
I think so, right?
Yeah.
If you go,
I guess it's going to depend on the rounds, I guess. But
16 rounds
Yeah.
by 12 doesn't really matter. Either
Yeah.
way, he's a great late round dart throw for sure.
I don't know.
They
if it's
throw the
drafted
ball
now.
so freaking much too.
So I mean, let's go over to what Cody talked about, because obviously Brian just named his sleeper of probably this whole division. What are you making of the Keenan Allen and Mike Williams thing?
Is it a
so
passing of the guard, Cody?
Well, I was gonna go there. It's not for me. I think Keenan's still that guy to me. But if you told me put a percentage that Mike Williams finishes above Keenan Allen, that's not a low percentage. I mean, there's probably a 30% chance. I mean, it is definitely not an unreasonable thing to pose the idea that, hey, Mike Williams might finish ahead of Keenan.
I don't.
The only thing is that last year, I felt like Mike Williams had
Nope.
I mean, he had a couple games where he had like 40 points. And by a couple, I mean, I think it was just one, but he had a couple other like huge blow up weeks.
Sure did.
That really carried his value. I'm not saying I think he's a stud player for sure because
And
Great for best ball.
Yeah, for sure. Great basketball player. But I agree with Cody also. I think I think this might be the last year because I do think he looked a little bit slower last year. But he was still the safety blanket every time they need it. I don't have the stat and I just thought of it, but I bet Keenan Allen was leading receiver for most third down conversions last year.
That's his line. If on third down,
What's that
get
us for fantasy there, Brian?
What?
Do we get bonus points for third down conversions?
Sometimes, some leagues. I had the option for sleeper.
Also it could keep the drive alive, so that's always nice. But
that is true.
I have some trust issues with Mike Williams, dude.
Same.
For him to not put together a full season last year, or didn't feel like it, because a lot of those huge production games came in the first half. In the second half, he was wide receiver 17. So it's not like it was anything crazy bad. I'm not saying that. He had 121 points over, what's that end up being, 9 through 18, plus maybe a bye. I think it was 11 games. So averaging about 11 points for that time. I just have some trust issues, man. He's burned us before. I guess Justin Herbert wasn't there, but he also has had injury concerns.
Or first full season, I guess.
I know, and that's another.
I don't think you're alone, Mario, because I mean he's going as wide receiver 20, and if you say his bad half of the year was wide receiver 17, that's interesting.
Lower,
yeah. And so I think everybody's kind of low on him. And I think it's for the reasons you said. I mean, there's injury concerns. He did fade some. His last year was massive, but before that, he had a streak of not so great.
Yeah.
He was almost, people were riding the high. I kind of remember somebody, I can't remember who, but they were riding the high. And then there was 4 or 5 weeks in a row where he was single digits.
Probably me.
Okay. When is this going to turn
after
around?
week 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
And
he did. But he's being drafted pretty low, man.
He could kind of win you weeks all by himself, though, which was the nice thing. When he had those blow up weeks, you were winning that week.
I remember last game of the year, he had 20 targets or very close to it, I think.
I think this is a great time, so I'm going to have to do this. I don't care what time is right now, but we're going to do it. We'll do it quick. This is a good time for Would You Rather.
Okay.
Because we'll do a Would You Rather with Mike Williams, and I'll try to keep it close to where his ADP is. It's not one of those ADP things because this is the decision that you have to make. So don't go by anything else other than the names. Jalen Waddle or Mike Williams?
Yeek. Jalen Waddle.
It's probably Mike Williams for me, but it's a good one.
I think I go Waddle as well. Terry McLaurin or Mike Williams?
T-Mac, baby.
T-Mac.
DJ Moore or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
See, that's a tough one because I am a DJ hater for sure. I'll probably go Mike Williams also.
I would. This might be the only time I go Mike Williams is because he has Baker now. DJ has Baker now. DK Metcalf or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
That one I feel like is very close for me. I'd probably go DK just because I feel like it's safer. Like he's guaranteed targets and he doesn't have the injury concerns that Mike Williams does.
I'd probably go DK there too. Mike Williams or Brandon Cooks?
Mike Williams.
Dang.
Mike Williams probably.
I go Brandon Cooks. I think just because of the low target there. Hollywood Brown or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams.
You know, the only thing that causes me pause is the darn DeAndre Hopkins. If it wasn't for that suspension, it's Mike Williams. So if you ask me just player, Mike Williams.
No, drafting.
Mike Williams.
You can't just change the game midway through. Like I'm just
Mike
going
Williams,
player
baby.
for this one. I go Hollywood Brown there, and it's not even close for me there.
Wow.
Interesting.
I love Hollywood. Last one. Darnell Mooney or Mike Williams. Actually, I have one more for you guys.
Mike Williams.
See, I feel like it really depends on your team makeup, but I'm going to go with Mooney.
I think I'd probably go Mooney too. There's just guaranteed work
I
there.
love Mooney.
Last one. Cortland Sutton or Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, easy.
Can you say it? Can you say it for me, B? Mike Williams. So I'm not gonna. I don't like to air people's dirty laundry. Okay, I really try not to. So I'm gonna give you a chance, Mario, and I'll check back next Monday. I'm gonna give you an opportunity to fix your Mike Williams ranking because I'm okay with you being low. You're in the wrong zip code.
Yeah, keep it there.
So you want me to say it?
Yeah, it's got to be like 30, right?
31?
Yeah, no faith.
Wow.
I have no faith.
Mario thinks this is Danny Amendola all over again.
Ay.
It has nothing to do with Danny Amendola.
I thought your finger might have slipped when you were putting it. Slipped when you were
talking
putting
about
touchdowns.
injury concerns because I know you think Mike Williams gets hurt like every 4 games.
Yeah, and honestly, like I just feel there's just a lot of concerns with this not with the offense because Justin Herbert is going to carry this so well. But like, I don't think that Mike Williams has put together how to have an NFL season. Yes, he had games, but remember one of the games was against the Browns in the blown coverage. That was the 40-point game. The blown coverage was so freaking bad, dude. That game should have never happened. Say all you want. Like, I know you can't erase stats and everything, but it was painful watching that game. And that's like 4 points from that game.
I think he had 41 in our league.
That may be true, but he went for 1,150 yards and 9 touchdowns. It's not like he put together a massive season last year in the grand scheme.
How many was against the Browns? Because I have there's another game that was really bad where he was wide freaking open also.
It's probably KC. He had 122-2 against KC, and he had 165-2.
Kansas City gave up 202 to T. Higgins, 204 to Gabe Davis. Of course, he put up 120. I get it. He plays them twice. So
but I mean, it's not like he really he's got games of 82, 91, 97, 110, 119. Those are all games outside of the 2 you just mentioned. So I don't think
he's a very big touchdown threat too. Like he is their first option when they are in the red zone.
Yeah, right, Brian. You said that was Donald Parham.
I was just about to make that joke.
What
did he actually finish last year, Mario?
Mike Williams?
Yeah. Well, I know you
finished wide receiver 12.
12. Okay.
Yeah. It's not happening again. Maybe 31.
This is a player. This is one of the spreads because you and House both have him in the 30s and Alex has him at 6. I'm next highest in the teens, but there's a massive spread on this.
Yeah, and I think like this may be one of those players where just it's kind of got that stench on it, right? Like burn me once, shame on you sort of thing. I don't know. But like honestly, watching the games last year, and I'll rewatch, but like the Browns game was 165 and 2 TDs. And I'm not gonna erase that, but like that's a huge bump in points right there.
Dude, Alex was just talking about Carson Wentz and Jared Goff both being in his top 10 for quarterbacks. I can't take anything he says as like gospel. So 6 is definitely too high. I could see him being a top 10 guy for sure. It just kind of depends on Keenan Allen, I think. I don't think Keenan Allen's completely washed yet. So,
and I'll be honest, I mean, it makes me nervous. Like I've got him in the high teens, and it's uncomfortably high for me. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm not concerned. That's not it. But I do think taking him, I would say, outside of wide receiver 2 territory is pretty severe.
I'll have to rewatch, but like there's not many situations outside of best ball. I love grabbing them where I'm gonna want this guy, and maybe that's messing up my rankings because like I don't want this headache. It's Tyler Lockett for me. Like there's a lot of years, plenty of years I just faded on Tyler Lockett because it was inconsistency was so bad, and maybe that does burn you because maybe he does win you those weeks. But like we just saw,
I don't think it was severe as that, in my opinion. Because to me, Tyler Lockett has 3 good games a year. I understand that Mike Williams had 1 huge game, but he had probably 8 very good fantasy games. So I don't think
he's
it's
also
nearly
only
that
had
severe.
1 good season where he finished outside above wide receiver 40 in his 5 years of playing. You could say it's
fair,
Herbert
but that
all day,
wasn't
but
your
he played
narrative.
1 year with Herbert.
But I was only responding to your narrative of like, oh, he's a 3-game wonder. I don't think that was the case personally.
Will one year wonder work better for you?
That's a better argument to me. I mean, I'll roll with it.
let's talk about
It's all built into the rankings. Like I just don't believe it. All right. Well, just a quick hitter. Eckler, I think, is set for regression. Just to some TD regression here.
He had a 20
I still
spot,
have
right?
him ranked. He had a 20 spot, 12 and 8. I still have him ranked pretty high, but is there any concerns? Is he going to lose any work? Do we care what work he loses? He's a PPR machine, so it doesn't matter that he loses work.
Probably not. He's going to lose the work we don't care about.
I think I need to move him down a little bit in my rankings, but I do still think he is going to get work. He's going to get PPR points for sure. I think I'd just move him down to like 5. I think I have him at like 2 right now.
You have him at 1.
Oh, you're right. I do.
That's his 1.
Guys,
Yeah.
but let's pause. These are all old rankings here.
And I feel bad because I said I'm not airing people's dirty laundry, and
you're airing my laundry. I don't feel great. I don't think there's any like great picks. Like me and Mario, or we were talking about this. Maybe it was the last episode we were on, but like at 101, do you really feel great with like you get Jonathan Taylor, sure, whatever. And then after that, I feel like it's just kind of like a crapshoot almost.
I think it is, dude. I think only 2 out of the next 5 are going to end up landing. Don't know what
you think though. So you're saying it's a crapshoot after Taylor?
Yeah, I think
I feel like Taylor's safe, and I feel like there's some other choices that are pretty safe, but like safe is not top 5.
If you forced me tomorrow to flip flop my 2 through 5, I wouldn't even fret about it.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like I think so. It's like CMC, Eckler, Derrick Henry, and Dalvin Cook, and like without Najee for me. Those 4 backs, I'm like 2 of these are going to land, 2 are going to miss, and I don't know which 2 are it.
I actually think
they all have the same kind of like risk.
When I do my rankings around preseason time, I think Mixon might move into my top like 3.
I think that's perfectly fine, dude. They got a great offensive line. I owe Mixon a rank up. I've been saying for quite some time now.
Yeah.
All right, let's close this out. So Brian's probably sleeper of this division, I would guess, is Josh Palmer
for sure.
Cody, do you have a sleeper in this whole division?
You're putting me on a spot here, man. This was not a prepared moment. Give me 15 seconds, less than 15 seconds. Yeah, my sleeper, and I'm not going to call it a sleeper. Is it okay if I don't call it a sleeper?
Sure.
Mike Williams.
No, I actually say it's Juju. I mean, I think there's some pretty legitimate upside there if everything goes right.
I like it. Now I'm putting myself on the spot, and I'm struggling to think of the last team that I can't think. Chargers, Broncos,
You know who it
Chiefs,
is. I know who it is to you.
Raiders. It's got to be
Starts
Tim
with a
Patrick
G and ends
today.
with a reg.
Yeah, I was trying to think of who he's talking about
Greg?
too.
Who
Tight
is
end.
Greg?
Oh, Greg Dulcich.
You had a dream about him. That's got to be your sleeper.
Dude, no. You
Tight end for the Broncos.
You ruined
Currently
my
7th
dream.
on the depth chart.
Wait,
I'm
not
just kidding.
Albert
That
O?
part's not
When
true.
did this happen?
You had a
This
dream about him, Brian.
Brian, I probably Cody, have we mentioned this on air yet? I feel like
Maybe
we
not.
have. There was I hope I'm not repeating the story, but oh well. We're on our way to Scott Fishbowl 12. I'm driving probably to your house at that point. And I text him, I'm like, guys, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I had a dream. And honestly, I wasn't even that familiar with this guy other than I knew he was a rookie tight end. But I had a dream and I saw Greg Dulcich in my dream. I just saw the name. And so I texted him, I was like, can we just scoop this guy up? And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll scoop him up, yeah. And we get there, we're drafting. Cody goes to the point where me and Rob are talking about two different people, right?
And they were players
And-
I hated. And I'm like, I can't.
And
be
Rob
part of
keeps
this.
saying, we're gonna get your boy. We're gonna get your boy. And he keeps pointing to a tight end. And then there's another one. Cody's like, these picks are so nasty. I need to walk away from this.
I took my
That
beer and I
sounds
walked in
just
the hallway.
So he walks away and he leaves it up to Dumb and Dumber, right? And we end up taking Trey McBride.
On accident. On
Who is
accident.
my boy. And then I'm like, and Cody comes back. He's like, look, we did that for your dream. And I'm like, nobody mentioned a dream here. You guys just kept saying my boy. And like, I like Trey McBride. I thought that was just my boy, not a dream.
Wait, so you didn't even get Dulcich then?
No, we didn't get Dulcich. He went like right after too, or like within the vicinity.
Dude, rookie tight ends never do anything. Mario, who's your sleeper? Give it to us.
I think it's Tim Patrick.
That's fair.
Okay. He's huge, isn't he?
He's going late.
Like 6'5".
He's big. Yeah, he's big. It's not like I'm calling for a top 12 season, but I think he beats his ADP where you can put him in your flex, maybe. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I
with
was
where
saying.
he's going,
That's
that's
the
great
sleeper.
value. That's a sleeper, yeah.
Because especially if one of those guys go down,
Or if they just run like a spread offense or something. Have a third
That'd be
receiver out
nice.
there.
With Greg out there as well.
I would. It's because Green Bay doesn't. I mean, coaches could be different, but this guy came from Green Bay, right? What I can't pronounce his last name.
I'm actually
Nate
not sure.
Burfitt. I think he came from Green Bay. They don't run a ton of three wide receiver sets. However, it could be different. I don't know. All right. That is our AFC West divisional breakdown. Thank you so much for joining. If you guys aren't already, follow us on @DadBodFantasySquad for Twitter, DadBod Fantasy Squad for YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. And we'll also be posting today's recording on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, something begins with a C. Rob would typically say all the major ones. For Guns Out, Suns Out, Brian, for Cody, Mudcat Cody, and myself.
Okay.
Peace.